Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really fundamental, how our minds work, and specifically how those, patterns of thinking that just run on autopilot can either push us towards our goals or seriously hold us back.
Yeah.
We're diving into the core ideas from summaries of Thibaut Meurisse's work on, mastering your thinking.
That's right. And the premise is, it sounds simple, but it's actually pretty profound. The landscape inside your head. It directly shapes the world you experience. And, crucially, the results you get.
Okay.
So we've pulled together the key insights, the practical takeaways from these sources to give you a clear path to understanding and maybe reshaping your own mindset.
Right. So our mission here in this deep dive is to pull out those critical nuggets, the actionable stuff.
The wisdom.
Yeah, the wisdom that can help you spot where your thinking might be a bit faulty, clear out those mental roadblocks, and really unlock more of what's possible for you. So let's get into it.
Okay. So at the heart of this, Meurisse's work really emphasizes this direct chain reaction. Your thoughts, they trigger specific actions. And those actions are what ultimately determine your outcomes. The sources are pretty clear. When we see negative results, like consistently negative results, the source often traces back to what's termed incorrect thinking.
Okay, so bad results often start right up here, in the head. And this faulty thinking, it's not just some abstract idea, is it? It carries real costs, like in our daily lives.
Yeah.
What are some of the big ones the sources highlight?
Well, a really significant one is simply creating unnecessary drama.
Drama, okay.
Yeah, this happens when we make biased judgments or we misinterpret situations because we're running on, incorrect assumptions. Your brain just quickly fills in the gaps with its own story.
Right.
The source call it mental storytelling.
Yeah, like hearing, a snippet of a conversation, and suddenly you've invented this whole conspiracy theory based on, basically nothing solid.
Exactly that. And the key insight here, the takeaway, is you need to verify the facts.
Yeah.
You have to actively pause that storytelling impulse. Ask questions, observe until you actually have clarity. Because those premature judgments, they're just fertile ground for drama.
That's powerful, just recognizing the stories we make up. What other costs are there?
Well, there's a huge drain on our resources, wasted time and energy.
Right.
This often comes from, say, focusing effort on tasks that just don't matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Or maybe you are doing essential tasks, but in really inefficient ways. You feel busy, but you're not actually effective.
So the problem isn't always a lack of effort. It's more about where or how that effort is directed. Is that it?
Precisely. The crucial takeaway is identifying your most critical tasks. The ones that might take the most effort, maybe they even feel a bit uncomfortable.
The hard ones?
Yeah, the hard ones. But they're the ones that actually move the needle towards your goals. And once you've ID'd those, the focus shifts to optimizing them.
Yeah.
Well, it could mean using templates, seeking advice from someone who's done it better, smarter, or maybe just breaking down a really daunting task into smaller, more manageable steps. It's about directing your energy wisely.
Okay. And that kind of connects to another cost you mentioned, feelings of inadequacy. Where does that usually come from?
Often, it stems directly from setting unrealistic goals or expectations. The disappointment isn't necessarily about failing per se, but about missing some arbitrary target that was never really grounded in reality to begin with. The sources use this example of expecting to be a full-time successful coach just 3 months after finishing a training course.
Which, when you say it like that, sounds incredibly ambitious, maybe even a bit naive.
It really is. Success at that level usually takes sustained effort over a much longer time. A more realistic approach, the sources suggest, might be mapping out, say, a 2-year plan.
Okay.
Building that business gradually. Setting realistic goals transforms that potential failure into just manageable milestones along the way.
Right. And finally, in this, hyper-connected world we live in, mental overload.
Oh, absolutely overwhelming. We have access to infinite information, right?
Yeah.
But that accessibility often just translates into constant distraction. A cluttered mind.
So what's the fix? You can't just switch off.
No, the insight isn't to try and consume everything. It's to become a highly effective filter.
A filter.
Yeah. Learn to focus relentlessly only on the information that's genuinely useful and relevant to your current goals. And just discard the rest, that active filtering. It's essential mental hygiene.
Okay, so these faulty patterns, making up stories, misdirecting energy, setting ourselves up for disappointment, getting lost in all the noise they show up as real problems. Drama, wasted effort, feeling not good enough, a cluttered mind. Recognizing these is step one, I guess, but then we need to understand why it happens, right?
Exactly. Let's shift to the root causes behind this inaccurate thinking. The sources point to four main culprits. First up is simply having incorrect assumptions about reality.
Our brain taking shortcuts again. Is that what it is?
Often, yeah. The brain's wired to make quick conclusions, often based on pretty limited info. And critically, our beliefs get deeply ingrained from our environment. Parents, teachers, media, past experiences.
The inputs.
Right. And if those ingrained beliefs include assumptions like, oh, that goal's impossible, or I'm just not capable of that, well, that creates a self-limiting mindset right from the start.
That makes a lot of sense. We build our world based on what we were told or what we saw early on. And tied into this are those common mental traps, cognitive biases.
Yeah, they're like predictable errors in our thinking. And they trip us up constantly. The sources give several really good examples. There's the self-serving bias.
Okay, what's that?
That's where you attribute your successes to your own brilliance, your own effort, but you blame failures on external stuff. Bad luck, someone else's mistake, the weather.
Which means you never actually learn from the failure, do you? Because you're always pushing the cause outside yourself.
Precisely. You block the learning loop. Then there's the sunk cost fallacy. This is the tendency to keep investing resources, time, money, energy into something that's clearly failing.
Oh, yeah.
Just because you've already put so much in, you're basing decisions on history you can't get back, rather than, future potential.
Like staying in a miserable job or pouring money into a failing business because you've already put in 5 years.
Classic example. Or the planning fallacy that is consistently underestimating how much time or effort something will actually take.
We all do that.
Right. And overlooking potential obstacles.
Yeah.
It just sets you up for guaranteed disappointment when reality bites.
Okay. And survivorship bias. Is that focusing only on the winners?
Yes, exactly. And
Right.
completely ignoring the vast majority who tried and failed, or even the huge struggles the successful people face. You see the end result, the bestseller, the big entrepreneur, and you miss the years of rejection, the pivots, the setbacks.
Creates unrealistic expectations.
Totally unrealistic. Makes you think it should be easier or faster than it is.
Yeah. And the Dunning-Kruger effect? I feel like I see that one mentioned everywhere online.
Yeah, that's basically where someone with low competence in a specific area tends to overestimate their own ability.
Right.
While, interestingly, highly competent people might actually underestimate theirs sometimes. It can lead to, confidently spouting off about topics you actually know very little about.
Which stops you learning.
Exactly. Prevents you from seeking the knowledge you actually need.
Okay, so these biases are like flawed software running in our brains. What's the third root cause then?
Protecting your ego. This is a huge obstacle because it involves a refusal to admit you might be wrong. And if you can't acknowledge errors, you simply can't learn from them. It shows up as denial, rejecting helpful feedback or criticism, actively avoiding situations where you might fail, or just habitually blaming other people.
Yeah, that shuts down any chance of growth immediately. And the fourth cause.
Being controlled by negative emotions. When you let negative feelings, especially around failure or setbacks, dictate your response, it can lead to paralysis or just giving up entirely. This is where you see things like generalizing, I messed up that one thing, so I'm just total failure at everything, or that all or nothing thinking. If this one plan doesn't work perfectly, I'll never be happy or successful.
And that connects back to the drama thing we talked about earlier, doesn't it? Like that example from the sources. Your boss gives you some constructive feedback. And instead of just hearing the feedback, your mind instantly spirals to, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I'll lose my apartment. I'll end up homeless.
Exactly. You're letting fear or maybe shame trigger this extreme, completely unrealistic scenario. So yeah, to recap the roots, we're often running on flawed assumptions. We fall into these predictable mental biases. Our ego gets in the way of learning, and we let negative emotions hijack our thinking and actions.
All right, so we get the problem, we see where it comes from. How do we start to untangle all this? How do we shift our perspective and get it more aligned with, well, reality?
It really begins with this simple but actually often quite difficult act, accepting reality as it is. Right now, the sources make a really crucial distinction here between what should be and what could be.
Okay, explain that.
Well, focusing on what should be is basically living in a fantasy. You're ignoring the truth of your present situation based on some ideal you have in your head.
Like thinking, I should be thinner, or I should be further along in my career by now. That feeling of not measuring up to some imaginary standard.
Precisely. And it's disempowering because it ignores where you actually are. It often leads to guilt or just inertia, doing nothing.
Right.
But shifting to what could be, that accepts your current reality. It says, okay, I'm not where I want to be right now, but then it opens up possibilities. It empowers you to choose action. But I could take a step towards that goal.
So I should be working feels like a judgment.
Yeah, implies failure or laziness.
Whereas I could be working feels like an actual choice you can make.
Exactly. It's empowering. Accepting reality first is the only way to build an effective action plan, starting from where you actually are, not where you wish you were.
That reframing feels much more proactive. Okay, so once we're grounded in reality, how do we identify those, hidden assumptions that might still be holding us back?
The sources suggest a two-step process: recognize and test.
Recognize and test.
Yep. First, you have to actively recognize the assumptions you're making, particularly about your goals. The writer example is perfect here. Assuming that getting on a big national TV show should automatically mean thousands of book sales.
Right. That was the assumption.
That's an assumption driven by hope, maybe,
Yeah.
but likely disconnected from the actual reality of book marketing these days.
So that's recognizing it. And then you test it. How do you do that?
You investigate its validity. Is that assumption actually true? Really? What evidence supports it? What contradicts it? You refine that assumption based on the facts you uncover. Make it realistic. Align it with your actual goal and the process needed to get there.
Okay.
So the writer, after testing, after doing some research, might adjust that initial hope down to a more realistic target, like maybe selling 250 copies initially from that appearance, based on what actually happens for similar authors.
So it's like holding your assumptions up to the light and seeing if they're solid or just smoke and mirrors.
Pretty much.
Okay. Beyond specific assumptions, how do we refine our overall view of reality? Make it more effective?
Well, the sources propose a few really powerful strategies. Tying back to challenging assumptions, you need to continuously re-examine what you think you know, adjust those unrealistic beliefs.
Keep checking them.
Yeah. And sharpen your thinking. This involves asking tough, clarifying questions, like, do I truly believe this goal is possible for me? What's my past experience with similar challenges? Do others who know me think I can do this? Crucially, do I have the necessary time and energy? Has anyone else actually succeeded in a similar situation, and why did they succeed? What's my concrete strategy? These questions cut right through vague hopes and assumptions.
Asking the right questions really does reveal so much. What else helps refine that picture of reality?
Getting an external perspective is critical. Interviewing people who are experienced in the field you're pursuing, that can offer invaluable insights. Ask them specific, smart questions. How does this really work behind the scenes? What beliefs were essential for their success? What would they do if they were starting over in my shoes right now? Their experience can quickly correct faulty assumptions you might be holding on to.
Learn from those who've already walked the path. Makes sense.
Exactly. Strategic research is also key, but remember that mental overload issue we talked about?
Right. Don't just drown in info.
No, this isn't about endless scrolling. It's about seeking out quality, relevant, updated information, books, courses, maybe interviews, specifically to inform your understanding and your strategy. And stay curious. Never assume you've learned enough. Continuously seek to improve, experiment. What works for one person might need tweaking for you. Always be in student mode,
Always learning, no matter your level. Got it.
Precisely. And the final strategy here is listening to your emotions, but in a very specific way. Use them as a compass for choosing goals that genuinely excite you.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, that intrinsic motivation. It's a powerful engine for consistent action. And it helps you actually enjoy the process itself rather than being totally fixated only on the outcome. If a goal just feels like a total chore, it might be worth questioning if it's really the right path for you, at least right now.
Okay, so we're accepting reality, actively challenging our assumptions, using tools like sharp questions and external input to get a clearer picture. But even with a better understanding, there are still common traps people fall into, right? What are some obstacles or misconceptions to watch out for?
Yeah, the sources highlight 4 common delusions that really prevent people from taking effective action. The first one is thinking you deserve success.
Ah, that sense of entitlement.
Yes, it's the belief that just putting in some effort or having a good idea means results should automatically follow. Like the universe owes you.
Right.
But success isn't an automatic reward just for existing or trying a little bit. You need to care about the goal itself and the process rather than just expecting personal returns. Let the results be the outcome of focused, effective effort, not some kind of entitlement.
Focus on the work's impact, not just what you expect back. Got it. What's the second misconception?
Expecting that hard work alone is enough. Effort is absolutely necessary, obviously, but the sources point out that many incredibly talented and hardworking people never achieve recognition or, significant success.
That's true.
Talent plus hard work isn't the whole equation. A gifted writer, for instance, might also need to master things like marketing and networking skills to get noticed. You need to be brutally honest with yourself and assess if your specific efforts are actually producing movement towards your goal, not just that you're busy spinning your wheels.
That's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, isn't it? Busyness doesn't equal progress. Okay, third obstacle.
Believing you're just one step away. This mindset can keep you stuck on a plateau because it stops you from critically evaluating your journey.
How so?
Well, it's kind of like an excuse to just keep doing what you're doing without asking the hard questions. How long have I been one step away? Why hasn't that last step actually materialized? Does something fundamental in my approach or maybe my assumptions need to change here?
It keeps you running on that treadmill, hoping the finish line will just magically appear.
Exactly. And the fourth one.
Yeah.
The belief that you already get enough and you don't need to improve. This is just a guaranteed ceiling on your potential. No matter how skilled you are, there's always room to grow. Experts in any field, they remain learners. They're constantly seeking new knowledge, refining their techniques, embracing feedback. Stagnation is the real enemy of progress.
So, fight entitlement, realize success is complex, be honest about your progress, and commit to relentless self-improvement. Those seem like the antidotes. Okay, now, how do we translate this better thinking into actual tangible results? It sounds like building an effective process and an empowering environment are really key here.
Absolutely. Mastering your thinking gives you the clarity, but you need structure and support to actually act effectively on that clarity. Every goal needs a defined process. This means listing out the necessary actions, but also identifying and removing anything that's unnecessary, and then prioritizing the strategies that are likely to have the biggest impact.
And then thinking long-term feels like a big part of that process, right? Especially when, instant gratification is everywhere.
Oh, it's critical.
Yeah.
The sources offer some good strategies to cultivate that long-term thinking, creating a clear vision for the future, visualizing those long-term goals, maybe even using something like a vision board. Regularly evaluating your progress against that bigger vision, and crucially, learning to enjoy the daily process itself, not just chasing the end result all the time.
Enjoy the journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Letting go of FOMO, that fear of missing out on shorter-term distractions, is essential too, as is simple patience. Staying committed to the process day in and day out, that's how long-term success is really built.
Patience is definitely a muscle that needs training in today's world. And how does our environment support success?
Yeah, your environment, both physical and social, has a huge impact on your mindset and your behavior. Positivity, support, they're vital. The sources highlight 3 key areas you can consciously design for empowerment. First, your peer group.
The people around you.
Exactly. The people you spend the most time with influence your beliefs, your energy, your habits. So actively seek out supportive people, find mentors, coaches, like-minded groups, and don't be afraid to set boundaries or, reduce time spent with people who consistently pull you down or reinforce limiting beliefs.
You become who you surround yourself with, that old saying.
It's true. Second, your physical environment. Declutter your workspace. A messy space often means a messy mind.
Guilty.
Yeah. Remove obvious distractions. Create visual cues related to your goal, maybe a checklist, an inspiring image, and make it easy to take the right action by preparing in advance. Lay out your running clothes the night before, set up your work area before you finish for the day, that kind of thing.
Make the right actions frictionless and the wrong ones harder.
Precisely. And third, clean up your digital environment. Turn off those non-essential notifications. Schedule or block internet use if you need to. Delete apps that are just major time sinks and distractions. Your digital space, just like your physical one, needs to support your goals, not sabotage them.
Okay, so it's about intentionally building structures and support systems around yourself. People, places, even pixels that reinforce the mindset and the actions you need for success. Now let's talk about the internal engine. building that unshakable confidence and expanding our sense of what's actually possible.
Right. Confidence isn't just a feeling you conjure up, it's often a result. Believing you can achieve a challenging goal is the fuel for persistence, especially when things get tough. The sources actually outline a kind of journey of developing confidence through 4 phases.
4 phases, interesting.
Yeah, it often starts with hesitation. The goal just feels too big, too impossible. Leads to inaction. Then comes the what-if phase. You start questioning the impossibility. Maybe you see others succeed, or you just start entertaining the idea of trying. Success stories. Cultivating a growth mindset that helps move you into this phase.
Starting to see a crack of light.
Exactly. Next is the really crucial taking action phase. You start taking small steps, and those small successes build a track record. They show you progress is possible. Each successful small action builds belief in your ability to take the next one.
So the action builds the confidence.
Right, which leads to the final phase, confidence. You now have a solid track record of overcoming challenges, achieving things, and that leads to a deep, stable belief in yourself.
So confidence isn't really a prerequisite for action. It's often a result of taking action. That's a key shift.
It's a huge shift. And that developing self-belief, it fundamentally shapes your reality. It influences how you interpret events, how you react to setbacks, even how others perceive you and support you. Adopting empowering beliefs is key here. Like believing in your capacity for long-term growth. Believing that if others have achieved something similar, it's probably possible for you too. Believing past successes can be repeated. Believing that if you just don't give up, you will eventually succeed. And critically, believing failure is temporary, not final. Success is still possible after a setback.
Those beliefs really act like a positive feedback loop, don't they? And how does this translate into actually expanding our field of possibilities, making bigger things seem achievable?
Well, when you combine that strong determination with a positive but still realistic mindset, obstacles start to seem less insurmountable. The sources point to 4 ways you can proactively expand what you see as possible. First, take more action to create more luck.
Create luck? How?
Don't just passively wait for opportunities to fall in your lap. Continuously think about what you want. Share your aspirations with others. Take consistent action in that direction. And importantly, learn from the feedback you get. This active engagement naturally leads you to encounter more opportunities, more serendipity.
Action generates opportunity.
Got it.
Got it.
It really does. Second, deliberately ask empowering questions. The sources highlight 2 really effective ones. How can I accomplish this? Not can I, but how can I? And what if I succeed? These questions force your brain to shift from dwelling on impossibility to actively seeking solutions and possibilities. They help you build an actual action plan.
Shifting from why not to how can. Love that.
Precisely. Third, simply commit to consistent action. Goals just remain abstract ideas, fantasies really, without consistent effort. Don't let the fear of the first step or the fear of failure stop you. Just start and keep moving. Consistent action is the ultimate test. It reveals what actually works and what doesn't.
Just keep putting one foot in front of the other day after day.
And fourth, practice gratitude daily, celebrating the small wins along the way. That inspires you, reinforces positive momentum, and being genuinely content with what you have right now isn't contradictory to striving for more. It grounds you, it reduces anxiety, it helps you avoid those limiting beliefs like entitlement or feeling like resources are scarce. Practice gratitude. Consciously acknowledge your progress. Appreciate the support you get. Find things to be thankful for each day.
Gratitude seems like it helps you appreciate the journey while still driving you forward. It gives you that solid ground to stand on while you reach for the future.
Exactly. It's a powerful anchor that fuels positive momentum.
Wow. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground in this deep dive. Understanding the real costs of faulty thinking, identifying its roots in our assumptions and biases, learning how to ground ourselves in reality and challenge those assumptions, recognizing those common delusions that hold us back, building the necessary structures, process, and environment, and finally, tapping into that internal power of confidence and consistent action.
Yeah, the core message from the sources is really clear. Mastering your thinking isn't just some psychological exercise. It's the absolute bedrock, the foundation upon which you build your ability to navigate challenges and achieve meaningful goals.
Right.
You now have a framework, tools to identify those patterns, accept your current reality, consciously challenge assumptions, build genuine confidence through action, create supportive systems around you, and maintain that consistent effort that progress requires.
So, thinking about the listener, what does this all mean for you right here, right now? Maybe the most significant barrier standing between you and a goal you have isn't really the difficulty of the goal itself, but the stories you've been telling yourself about it, the assumptions you've just been holding on to without really questioning them. So here's a thought. What's just one assumption you could challenge today, even a small one, just to see what could be?
Yeah, take one of these ideas and just experiment with it. Start small. Refine your process as you go. Check those ingrained assumptions. Build that confidence through taking action, step by step. The potential is unlocked, not just by changing what you do, but by changing how you think.
That wraps up this deep dive. Until next time, keep challenging your assumptions and taking that consistent action.